All right, so here's a list of the darkest Marvel timelines, and later on, if not in another episode, we're gonna be going through a list of the darkest DC timelines. I think we can do it all in one. First up, I don't even know what the Earth is called, but it's the Marvel Zombies Earth. It was the story by Robert Kirkman, the guy who did the Walking Dead. If you've ever seen the movie The Thunderbolts, you got that new hero, the Sentry, played by
Yes.
Bill Pullman's son, whatever his name is.
Yes.
Yeah. The president of the United States from Independence Day, his son is now a psycho Superman knockoff. So, anyways, that dude in the comic books, he's kind of crazy also. And he ends up getting teleported to like a random Marvel superheroes timeline. He, I guess, turned into a zombie or was bit in a different timeline and got teleported over here to this reality. There's a flash in the sky, and all the Avengers go to see what happened, and they see the Sentry, and he just starts biting Captain America's head off, and all this crazy shit starts to pop off. All these different heroes end up getting infected, like Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man. I mean, obviously, the Avengers, showed up, right off the bat. So what ends up happening is Ash from the Army of Darkness comic book series and the Evil Dead movies ends up teleporting in to the
Wait,
random
what?
plague. Oh, yeah. Oh, this happens.
Wait, in Marvel Zombies?
Yes, sir. Yes,
The
sir.
original Marvel Zombies?
Yes, sir.
Dude, I should have read those when you let me borrow them.
Well, it's a crossover, but it's in that same universe, and it happens in there. I think it happens in the one. Still have the first one, so you can still read it.
Do
think
I?
the first Yeah, I think the first one has that story in it, so you're good to go there. If not, I gotta look for my Marvel book. Oh, but dude, I had that comic book hanging up too. There's a comic book, Army of Darkness versus Marvel Zombies, or vice versa, and it shows Captain America fighting Ash on the cover in like a classic Marvel zombie style. It's cool.
Dude, they should do a there's all these fighting games. They should do a zombies fighting game. But
Oh
it's
yeah, they
like
should.
all the characters that have classic zombie crossovers.
Yeah, I mean the issue is that I don't think we're ever gonna get like an Ash crossover with zombies ever again. Like that was just like that happened to be like a lightning in a bottle kind of situation where
You never
everything
know.
kind of worked out.
What kind of not really has a crossover, but enough of a crossover is Chainsaw Man.
Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, pretty sure the guy who makes Chainsaw Man drew Captain America as a zombie, but as like a Captain America Demon Man.
Oh, that's
But now that you
cool.
mention it, if he lost his head, you said Sentry tore his head off or something, or ate his head
Well,
off.
he ripped the top half of his skull off, so his brain was popping out, like you know, or yeah, something like that. I think
Here
Captain
we go.
America tried to throw his shield, and that happened. Like his shield ended up decapitating him.
Check this out.
Yeah, that is sick. Army of Dark. What ends up happening is Ash randomly is hopping different dimensions in his own Army of Darkness storyline, and he ends up hopping in to the Marvel Zombies timeline, right? He ends up finding the Wrecking Crew who's fighting Daredevil, actually helping the Wrecking Crew to take out Daredevil, which is hilarious because he thinks Daredevil's a bad guy because he's dressed like the devil. And the Wrecking Crew's like these evil demolition guys.
But they look like average Joes. You got to get to the end of this because there's a lot of universes that you got to go through.
Oh, I know, dude. But this is the one that I know the most about. So this is the one
Okay.
that I think I can spend a little bit more time on. Ash ends up trying to figure out where the Necronomicon is, so he finds the Punisher, and the Punisher takes advantage of all the zombies.
Finds the Darkhold.
I think that's sort of what happens. So the Punisher ends up killing a bunch of criminals and shit in cold blood, and then Ash just kind of takes off and is like, "Nah, man, I don't do that. That's crazy." So Ash somehow makes his way to Doom Castle, like the last like stronghold of the plague, right? Doom, he actually fucks up. Like Ash actually, I think, causes Doom to actually like lose his defenses for the entirety of the world to get like consumed. Because Ash ends up going and finding the Necronomicon, and the Necronomicon basically like taunts him and like and tells him that he's an idiot and tells him that it wasn't a an undead plague, it was a viral plague. So he basically had to come to terms with the fact that he fucked up. So then he ends up making like a portal in Doctor Doom's chambers or whatever it is, and he ends up getting zapped to this other world, which I think this is the only time I'm going to mention this world. I think I wrote it down, but it doesn't really come into play much. But he ends up getting zapped into a world where all of the Avengers are turned into werewolves. So then he has to survive in a werewolf Avengers world.
What?
Yeah. I don't think there's ever like a sequel. It's left like open for interpretation.
That's just where it's left. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. Yeah, it's cool. It's a
That's
cool
sick.
story. So Quicksilver ends up running around the world once he gets infected, and he literally just goes around the globe and infects everybody. They turn Avengers Tower into a zombie stronghold. The exact same time that all this is happening, Silver Surfer shows up for the first time and is like, "Hey world, you're gonna get eaten by Galactus." And then everybody's immediately just like, "Whoa, we can eat that guy." So they all just like immediately eat Silver Surfer and immediately gain
What?
the power cosmic. So what ends up happening is,
What?
yeah, Galactus comes to the planet and they immediately all tackle Galactus and devour Galactus and like completely devour the power cosmic. So like the main five Avengers that are left have like these vast cosmic alien powers, but also are undead zombies. So what they decide to do with their cosmic powers is they go throughout the entire universe and just start eating all of the alien worlds and conquering like the entire like known universe.
It would really suck if aliens finally show up here in our real world and they're zombies. That would suck.
They just show up there like, "Oh shit, we're a little too late."
That would be awful.
That's I feel like that's got to be like a comic or I'm sorry, that's got to be a movie storyline somewhere or something like that where aliens show up and they're like, "Oh, zombies. This isn't what we expected." The virus ends up spreading and spreading and spreading, and it gets to be a point where it starts spreading to different multiverses, so it becomes like a really major like multiversal issue. And this group of multiverse agents, unrelated to the multiverse agents that I'm going to mention later, it's called Armor, the one that I'm talking about right now. It's led by, or at least one of the leaders is Morbius, Dr. Michael Morbius, the guy that you may know from the shitty Jared Leto movie. And
Wow.
yeah, in the comics, he's really cool. And I keep saying that, and nobody probably is ever going to believe me, but I think Michael Morbius is a really cool character. And I like the comic book vampires.
I like that his name is just Michael Morbius.
I mean, they're all alliterative, right? Bruce
Morbius
Banner.
is such a crazy name. It should just be his whole name.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what everybody just calls him, Morbius. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's why it's so silly that his name's Michael.
That's why it's so silly that his name's Michael. Um, but what ends up happening is, so yeah, Morbius ends up being in charge of like this multiverse like extermination squad that just is in charge of taking out like multiversal threats for Armor, and they end up getting infiltrated by a multiversal version of Morbius who's also infected, and he basically ends up trying to take over the whole like multiverse with it. I forgot how exactly this ends up
I would have expected
shakes out, but
vampires to be immune.
no, dude, it infects everything. Like that plague
Yeah,
literally infects. I I can't even think of like Howard the Duck was a zombie even, and I
that's
think that
sad.
yeah, it was crazy. He was eating brains. There's literally a scene with Howard the Duck eating someone's brain. I'm pretty sure
Was it funny?
it was pretty funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
but what ended up happening, I guess, is just the multiverse was kind of fucked for a moment, and then they weren't. I'll be honest with you, I didn't read the ending of all that. I just pretty much read like most of it up until the end because like it literally like helped ignite my love of comics, the Marvel Zombie series, because I loved comics as a kid, but like at a certain point I kind of lost touch of it. But then when I read Marvel Zombies, I was like, whoa, like this was the bee's knees. I was like, this is the shit. I got to get back into comic books and shit, and it made
Dude,
me
me
like love it.
too. I got to get back into it. This absolute line, this absolute comic line,
Mm.
absolutely nuts.
Absolutely nuts. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention a few things. So Magneto ends up being one of the last people on planet Earth and surviving for a little bit. T'Challa ends up with his leg cut off because Giant Man tries to keep him alive to feed himself and his wife, accidentally decapitating her. It's kind of crazy. A lot of and then they take Wasp and they put her head on a robot and she basically becomes like a robot wasp. So that's cool.
Stupid.
That's stupid. She doesn't have the hunger though, so that's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So all the heroes, it was Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Hulk, and a couple other heroes. I think Iron Man and Captain America, they were like the core Avengers that got the power cosmic. At the very end of the series, Magneto, his dudes on Asteroid M actually tricked, like they worked alongside a lot of the zombies because they lost their hunger after a while as they were trying to rebuild the human race. The mutants and the guys that were like trying to rebuild the human race from Asteroid M in the Savage Land, I think it was now, or Genosha, one of those places, they end up tricking all the zombies to basically go on a multiversal teleporter. They beam all five of the Avenger zombies to like five different universes. And what ends up happening is that actually restarts the hunger in them. So when I think it's Wolverine gets to a universe where Wolverine is in Japan, he's like the Wolverine that's alive in this universe, I think takes out the Wolverine that's dead. So everything works out well in that regard. I think my favorite one is the Spider-Man story because he pops up in Manhattan while the Sinister Six is there and he gets his like hunger back immediately and he just starts devouring the entire Sinister Six and it's crazy. He basically ends up being the first one to figure out how to control the hunger again later on. And he confides in Kitty Pryde too after she meets the zombie Wolverine. And what ends up happening is he shows himself and he's like all dark and crusty and fucked up. It's crazy. But yeah, this was the comic that got me into all this shit. So I wanted to like focus a little bit on it because that was like the comic that got me into comic books. Like I was into comics very like a little bit here and there as a kid, but when I read that, it was like I don't know, something just clicked with me and I loved it a lot. The next one is Mark Millar's Wolverine, Enemy of the State. He's brainwashed by Hydra and goes on a killing spree. I'll be honest with you, I don't know too much about a lot of these, so we're probably gonna have to look some of them up. Or I can just summarize them like that.
Yeah, because this one doesn't really sound like Halloween. You know,
Well, I mean, they're all just fucked up timelines. It's not all like necessarily Halloween reads, but like
we could focus on the Halloween stuff.
I
You
know,
know,
I know. There's one where Wolverine becomes a vampire, and that's coming up, but
that's perfect.
yeah. Speaking of, one of my favorite storylines of all time is Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. And basically, Deadpool gets like fucked with by like some kind of weird psychiatrist named, I think, Dr. Bong. He ends up getting all of the voices in his head removed except for one voice, which basically convinces him that he needs to like kill all of the heroes in the Marvel Universe and then just like basically take over existence. So what he starts doing is he starts going around and killing all of literally the Marvel heroes one by one. Then he starts hopping different dimensions and starts killing different he ends up going after like Tom Sawyer like type characters like and like Moby Dick and like all these illustrated like classics. And he yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, Sherlock Holmes I think has to track him down in like the multiverse. It's like a weird like little thing. And then he ends up becoming the leader of a group of Deadpool Corps that basically go around the multiverse trying to like kill like I think most of the Deadpools or something like that. I didn't get too far into that story, but I mostly read it for the first one, Deadpool kills the Marvel universe, but it ended up getting pretty cool and pretty wacky. Next up is Old Man Logan. Now this is a really crazy fucked up storyline. This is in a post-apocalypse in the future when Logan's retired because he accidentally, I think, murdered all of the X-Men because he was mind controlled. He went on a killing spree. I think it was Mysterio. Mysterio mind controlled him and caused him to go on a killing spree and murder like literally all of the X-Men, thinking that they're bad guys. So he ends up retiring. He ends up like calling it and going and living in like a shack out in the desert with his I think his family or something like that. His whole family ends up getting murdered by the Bruce Banner like family. He ends up I think kidnapping their kid and transporting it across like the post-apocalyptic like wasteland with a blind Hawkeye. They get to like a point where they like see that like Red Skull is like running America and like wearing I think Captain America's suit. I think there's all kinds of like wacky shit going on. Like Giant Man's like entire body like is this just giant like thing just out in the middle of the desert. It's crazy. It's a really good story, and they kind of adapted a lot of the parts of this for both the Logan movie, which a lot, I mean, you can obviously tell that a lot of the parts come from Logan are from this, or vice versa, I should say. But also, strangely enough, I feel like they took a lot of Deadpool and Wolverine from this comic book storyline specifically because, like, they're driving around like a dilapidated wasteland with all these like Marvel all these like crazy Marvel monuments and like things that are just like strewn about and just like not even like they have no meaning in this context because it's from a different time, but just because it's there it does have some significance, or it did at some point. And I think that's a powerful thing that you can get from Old Man Logan, but also from that movie Deadpool and Wolverine, which I liked a lot. And Old Man Logan even shows up in Deadpool and Wolverine. He shoots Deadpool with a shotgun. So there you go. There's a reference right there. All right. Um Next up we have the Dark Avengers. And I think this might have even been the mainstream timeline, but I just threw this storyline
This is
in
just
there.
something that happened.
Yeah, this is just like a crazy scenario that happened because it was just that nuts that I think it deserved its
Yeah.
own like place. I shouldn't even call it the Dark Avengers storyline. What I should call it, because what I'm highlighting is a particular Dark Avengers moment from this, but the entire storyline was called Dark Reign, and it was basically like a really crazy time when Norman Osborn became head of I think it was Shield, and I think became like president or something like that. And he ends up taking over the Avengers and installing his own like villain Avengers with like Sentry. He has a Mac Gargan Venom as Spider-Man. He has Ares as like the Thor type. He's got um he's got a few he's got a few different like weird oddities. Moondragon as Miss Marvel. I think she was on the Guardians of the Galaxy a couple times. Actually, I think she's on in the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Phyla-Vell. I think that's the same character. I could be wrong. In the comics, she's a little evil. I think it's Drax's daughter too in the comics, but I could be wrong.
That would be cool.
Yeah, she's more of an anti-hero than anything else. Um, but what else? What else? what ends up happening is this is why I highlighted this, is because at a certain point the Sentry just goes nuts, and he ends up taking over like the entirety of like New York, and Norman Osborn has to like talk him down. But also Norman Osborn decides to invade Oklahoma and decides to invade a crashed out Asgard that's sitting in the middle of a field in Oklahoma. So then he has to fight Asgardians as he invades like an Oklahoma Asgard. It's called New Asgard, obviously. So yeah, that was just a crazy moment in comics that I thought was pretty dark and nuts. Because Norman Osborn being head of like Shield and just like putting up like a police state and putting villains in charge and shit, that's crazy. A lot of these people are going to know because they're extremely famous timelines. And this one, if you know about WandaVision, there's a good chance you might know that WandaVision was sort of based on this story in a way. It's called House of M, and it's basically she got really fed up and like had like a mental breakdown. She ends up like whispering like this reality changing hex and says no more mutants, and basically changes the entire universe into a pocket dimension where everybody is like living a completely different life. Captain America got old, so he's this old guy sitting on a park bench. Peter Parker has a family, so he's happy, he's doing good. I think it's with Gwen Stacy, if I'm not mistaken. It's just like a really crazy reality. Magneto's like king of the planet or something like that. Something wacky. He's like a king of some nation or something like that, like kind of like Doctor Doomish or maybe the planet, something like that. And just everything is just going pretty well for everybody, but it's like pretty dark. They end up trying to awaken Scarlet Witch though, because she basically, is warping reality and like changing it and like causing everything to like go weird. So people are basically in, I think, the reality trying to like shake her out of it, so to speak, kind of like WandaVision. It's a good one though. It's House of M is a pretty good storyline. I'm probably butchering a lot of these stories because I haven't read them in years, but they're pretty fun. If people are interested, a lot of these are actually really famous too. Like I'm not just like throwing out like some obscure no, like House of M is not obscure by any means, like by any stretch of the imagination. Like you walk into a comic book store and you're bound to see some reference somewhere of House of M, if not just see the comic book there in the front, just sitting there. So it's like, a lot of these you can find, and if I'm doing a bad job of explaining them, I recommend people reading some of these because honestly, comic books are cool. You can go to a different place with them than you can with any other medium. You have books that you can go to a different place, and I love books because whenever I read, I get ideas about other things, not just about what I'm reading. I end up just like thinking of just the most totally crazy things in totally different directions, and that's because of reading a book specifically instead of like a comic book. But with a comic book, you do get like a certain kind of vibe where it's kind of like closer to like a movie book, if that makes sense. Because I mean, obviously, because you're watching or you're reading and you're seeing art, so you're kind of getting that. I'm probably destroying this explanation, but I feel like there's something magical about the different ways to consume different types of media. And I think that's one of the things is that comic books deserve like a shot. Even Marvel and DC, you know what I mean? You like DC, I like Marvel for the most part. But I feel like, there's other comic book companies that are out there that are great, but don't knock Marvel and DC because they're so mainstream as well, you know?
Can I say real quick?
Yeah.
If you're gonna be just like talking about things that aren't even whole universes, there are other Marvel things you could talk about that are pretty Halloween related.
I
Like I just looked at
know
this.
Ghost
I looked up this.
Rider.
Well, hold on. I looked up this list, and there's one called the Supernaturals, and it has Ghost Rider on the team.
How about the League of Monsters?
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
The League of Monsters. Yeah, that's with
Have
Ghost
you heard of
Rider.
the Scarecrow?
No, I haven't.
Look that guy up. They got their own Scarecrow.
I know, but I wasn't just. I mean, I was gonna talk about other things. Like I have the Darkhold unit. Well, actually, no, I don't
Plus,
even
like
have
just
the Dark.
Werewolf by Night. We could talk about.
Yeah,
We could talk about more about like Moon Knight and
Yeah.
all that mystical stuff.
Well, I think what I did was I sprinkled in some random stuff that was from the mainstream universe, but I did mostly like other universe stuff. Like I'm looking at
You know,
other universes and I see a lot of that's it for the
I think
616.
Marvel has enough characters like that I know, and I know they have teams that are pretty much like Halloween spooky character teams.
Yep,
DC has it too, but like Marvel should just have a dedicated team that's like that, that
they
only
do.
teams up for Halloween, because there's like this big
I mean they sort of
dangerous
have
entity
that.
that always happens on Halloween though. So like all these heroes have to prepare the world every Halloween.
That's sort of like what the Midnight Suns is, but even though it's not Halloween, it's like it's for like Halloween type events. Like
It should be like Halloween's crazy. Like in the Marvel
Halloween's crazy.
universe, it should be dangerous every year, and heroes should be ready, and there should be a team of heroes like that that are.
No, I mean I agree. There should be. I think Midnight Suns should just get together more often and more on Halloween
I
specific.
think they should be called something else, more Halloween related.
The Halloween Suns.
The Halloween Suns.
The witching hour suns. I don't know. I think Midnight Suns just sounds too cool.
It is cool. It can be the Midnight Suns because it's midnight Halloween night every time this happens.
Yes, exactly. Just like Santa Claus. The Midnight Suns are basically the Santa Claus of Halloween. They go around the world and kick ass on Halloween night, all in one night.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
They just defend the world.
All the goblins.
Isn't that pretty much what they do?
I mean, I guess so. I mean that is what they do. That's what I'm saying.
They
Like
do.
they're
They
pretty
do it
much that.
outside of Halloween as well.
Yeah, they do like all the magical threats.
But you know that on Halloween night they're busy.
You know that are all
That's their
yeah.
biggest night.
I mean, I would imagine Blade's busy on Halloween night.
Yeah, him too.
He's
Wait,
just
he's not on the team.
yeah, he is. He's on the Midnight Suns.
All right, then yeah, definitely.
I'm pretty sure Blade's on it. Let's look up the Midnight Suns real quick. If we're gonna let's take a quick.
This is what I'm talking about.
No,
Let's get into the Halloweenies.
this is good because my next storyline involves the Darkhold that I was going to talk about. So this works as context to that.
Mhm.
So who's the Midnight Suns? A team of supernatural superheroes appearing in Marvel Comics, including Blade, Morbius, and Ghost Riders, Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze. And yes, there were multiple Ghost Riders. I mean, it's a mantle, so that makes sense, right? The original team first formed as part of the Rise of the Midnight Sun story. Very original name. Culminating in the first full team appearance in Ghost Rider Volume 3, number 31. This is the only thing that I absolutely hated about comic books at this time in the 90s and late 80s. The issue with them is they were so like everything and I love this about comics now in a sense. I hated it at the time because it became convoluted and I think they figured that out. There were so many different storylines like across different comic books. So like in order to keep up with the storyline, you had to read Ghost Rider Volume 3, number 31, and then next issue read Spirits of Vengeance, number 7, Volume 2, in order to understand what was happening in the basic storyline, or read Morbius after that story. So it's like you had to read all these different types of characters in comic books in order to just keep up with the basic story. And that was I think one of the downfalls of the comic book industry was that idea. I mean, they've kind of figured it out now by kind of like if they come up with like a storyline, they tend to like keep it focused on one comic series, right? Like a mini series, so to speak. I mean, they did get a little crazy in the 2010s with it again, but I think they're doing good again, you know?
I think it got so crazy that you could hop in anywhere.
Well, I think that was the issue, but that was also what was good about it. You know, I like it because in hindsight we have all these compendiums now and like all of these massive comic collections that we're able to have. We don't have to worry about like keeping up with certain characters because we can just read how the storyline's supposed to be because it's all put together already for you. So it's like it's kind of hindsight 2020 kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Midnight Suns, they got together. They were basically trying to take down Lilith, I think it was, from getting like the dark hold.
Have you said all the members already?
The original Midnight Suns appeared in the 90s. Rise of the Midnight Suns launched several books, including Morbius 92, Darkhold Pages of the Book of Sins, and Night Stalkers. The team consisted of the Nine, Blade, Morbius, Danny Ketch, Johnny Blaze as a human. So Danny Ketch is the Ghost Rider in this situation. Frank Drake, who is who's Frank Drake? I have no idea. He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. And then a guy named Hannibal King. He first appeared in Tomb of Dracula number like 25 in 1974. He's a private detective. King was bitten and killed by Deacon Frost while on a case in London. In England, horrified to find himself one of the undead, King vowed never to consummate the curse by passing it on. He subsists on blood purchased or stolen from blood banks, consumes only corpses or animals. For the most part, eschewing his vampirism, King continues to operate as a private detective, traveling freely only by night. He's a pretty cool dude, I guess.
Isn't that Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, you're right. That's crazy. All right. Oh, well, he's pretty different in the movie then.
Is that the same character? Is
No,
that is
no,
that him?
that is. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. That is him. He's basically Deadpool in the movie. He's not at all like he is in the comic. Actually, it was the set of Blade, if I'm not mistaken, that Ryan Reynolds first learned about the comic character Deadpool, and I think that's probably what influenced his like
Fell in love.
exactly.
He's like, why can't I just be this guy?
And in the comic books, before Ryan Reynolds even became Deadpool, Deadpool described himself as being a cross between Ryan Reynolds and a radioactive Shar-Pei that bit Ryan Reynolds or something like that. Even in the comic books, they kind of like he knew, or Ryan Reynolds liked that so much that he described himself as that in the comics that he ended up rolling with it. But I'm sure Deadpool describes himself in a million ways, so it's weird that that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, crazy. And then for a sort of similar thing to that, Samuel Jackson was well, Nick Fury was modeled after Samuel Jackson, and in the comic books they actually asked Nick Fury his character who would play him in a movie, and he said Samuel Jackson, and that was before he played him in Iron Man. So that's a cool little comic fact there too. Yeah, so then there's the other character, Victoria Montesi. She is notable for being the first openly lesbian lead character to appear in Marvel Comics. That's pretty cool. She's the only child of Monsignor Vittorio Montesi. The Montesi line was long ago designated as the Guardians of the Darkhold, a tomb of ancient black magic which has the potential to summon the elder god Chthon to wreak havoc upon the earth. But Victoria, half American, disbelieves her father's claims and takes up hospital work in Rome, where she lives with her lover, karate instructor Natasha Salvato. However, when pages from the Darkhold are distributed to unsuspecting mortals by a demonic dwarf and Nash is rendered quadriplegic. Oh, Nash is the girlfriend, Natasha, Nash. Nash is rendered quadriplegic and comatose. Following an explosion intended to kill Victoria, she joins with occult expert Lewis Hastings and Interpol agent Sam Buchanan to recover the pages of the Darkhold Redeemers. Montesi, Hastings, and Buchanan began working with Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze when they discovered Lilith, an ancient demonic entity, had sought Montesi's death. Thereafter, the group was loosely affiliated with Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, the Night Stalkers, and the other, quote, Midnight Suns. These alliances draw them into the many adventures unrelated to the hunt for the Darkhold pages. Their involvement with the forces of darkness had been predicted long ago as part of the Nine, a group of heroes destined to destroy much evil. Killing one of the group would mean much success for the forces of darkness, even against the 8 survivors. In one incident, Victoria and Sam become involved in Lilith's rebirth from the haunted grounds of the Salem Field Cemetery in Cypress Hills, Brooklyn. A mist seeping from the ground is bringing with it demonic creatures of all sorts. Sam, Victoria, Ghost Rider, Caretaker, the Night Stalkers, and other heroes try their best to stop it, but end up on the run and under siege in the storyline appropriately known as Siege of Darkness. Interesting. The group as a trio hunts down the Darkhold pages whenever they can. In Hawaii, they fight demonic soldiers brought forth from the mind of a Pearl Harbor survivor. In a small town, Victoria helps protect a school full of children from rampaging demonic creatures. She and Sam are assisted by Sabretooth. Sabretooth is the most random person to throw into this mix ever. In short order, Victoria deals with the apparent betrayal of Sam and the sacrifice of Lewis Hastings, who perishes soon after giving her soul to bring life.
Is it because he's almost like a werewolf?
That's gotta be what it is, dude. I think you hit the nail on the head. Oh
They
man,
should throw Wolverine in there.
that's
But isn't he
funny.
already?
Yeah, he's pretty much like a werewolf. He can heal and shit. All right. So that gives you an idea about the Midnight Suns and the Darkhold. So,
Dude, when does Mephisto come in?
oh man, I just exited out of it. He comes in later, I'm pretty
Nah, no
sure.
worries.
I was gonna
No
say,
worries.
in 2009, a different incarnation of the team was featured in Marvel Zombies 4 after being teased in Zombies 3. More like the Legion of Monsters than a traditional Midnight Suns lineup. This team included Morbius, Damon Hellstrom, Jennifer Kale, Werewolf by Night, and Man-Thing. The Hood briefly assisted. The story was loosely continued in Punisher, Frankencastle, and Legion of Monsters. There's a character for you, Punisher Frankencastle. Do you know about this character?
No.
So there's a character where we may as well just click on him because I don't even know how to properly explain this character, but the name pretty much gives away what his deal is. Punisher Frankencastle, a comic book series featuring the character Frank Castle, also known as the Punisher, spinning out the second Punisher War Journal series by writer Matt Fraction. This series of Punisher places the character firmly in the ongoing Marvel Universe. After the events of Dark Reign, Castle was dismembered and killed by Wolverine's son, Daken, and reassembled as a Frankenstein monster by Morbius and the Legion of Monsters. That escalated quickly. After Norman Osborn positions himself as humanity's savior following the secret invasion. So that's how Norman Osborn acted. Like I was talking about Dark Reign earlier, this all happened during Dark Reign. So Norman Osborn actually killed the King of the Skrulls on live television, and because of that, he got like elected president and became humanity's savior. He becomes the foremost national security officer in the country and disbands S.H.I.E.L.D., placing a new organization, Hammer, in its place, holding Osborn accountable for its actions as the supervillain Green Goblin. The Punisher plans to take care of Osborn, joining forces with a new tech-savvy young partner. Castle sets about taking Osborn down. Castle, normally favoring simple ends to his target, must adapt his methods to Osborn's far-reaching influence and deep-seated corruption. Castle and his new associate Henry Russo elect to gather evidence of the former Green Goblin's wrongdoing in order to completely destroy his newfound reputation and end his dark reign once and for all. Osborn, on the other hand, has an associate waiting in the wings to get rid of the Punisher. The Hood's crime organization grows at an alarming rate, eluding the authorities of New York. Most of the superhero population, Norman Osborn and Hammer. The Punisher positions himself as the only thing resembling consequence and makes it a personal mission to bring Hood and his organization down. Although Hood is ready for him in the form of Deadly Dozen. I just want to hear about the Punisher as I'm gonna skip ahead real quick. Blah blah blah. All right. Wolverine to Dark Reflection. All right, so basically, I forgot to mention in the Dark Reign storyline, Wolverine's son Daken, a really fucked up version of Wolverine, is the version of the Avengers Wolverine. He was like the one that I was missing. He goes and hunts down the Punisher in the New York City sewer. A fight to the death ensues between the Dark Wolverine, Daken, and the Punisher. The Punisher does well, according to this, and manages to fight on par with Daken, but the mutant's healing factor proved too much for Castle. Obviously, he's just a human versus a thing that's practically immortal. And Daken eventually cut both his arms off before decapitating him. That is crazy. Morbius and the Legion of Monsters reconstruct Frank as the Frankenstein monster. Morbius recomposed Castle, hoping his military experience and tactical mindset and leadership would help the Legion of Monsters overcome a society that has been hunting them down. Why would you think that? It just makes them look worse by having a Franken castle, a Frankenstein Punisher. However, Frank rejected the group upon waking up and left their base. Well, obviously, why wouldn't he? He's the undead now. He probably hates it. He wants to kill the thing that he is. He stayed in the tunnels, unaware the Legion was being slaughtered by the Japanese society. The fuck is that? A creature who previously offered Frank food fled to him for help, but died at his doorstep. Frank joins in the fight to protect the innocent, monstrous entities being targeted by their enemies. After being revived, Frank must find a way to live with his new limitations and make peace with what he's become. To do this, he hits the streets once again to punish the guilty and begins to formulate a plan of vengeance against the man who killed him. So he's going to try and kill Wolverine's son? Wild. After his fight with Dakin, Punisher returns to Monster Island, and the Bloodstone seems to have returned him to normal, but he starts growing insane, and the monster within the Blood Gem is starting to take control of him. The Legion of Monsters decide to take him down and retrieve the Bloodstone from him with the help of Elsa Bloodstone. Though Amphibian attempts to talk some sense into Punisher, Elsa decides to just shoot him and take the stone from him. This angers Punisher, and he fights and defeats Elsa in a jungle before he could finish her off. Werewolf by Night intervened and saved Elsa. Then the living mummy convinces Frank to give up the gem and walk away. Wow. So much random shit just happened in that. But yeah, that's a fun one. So I guess all of that gives context to this random story. So this is called Darkhold Spider-Man. In this universe, basically, Peter Parker tries to read from the Darkhold, if I'm not mistaken.
Why?
Why does he do it? I forgot.
Doesn't he have enough?
Peter Parker, better known as Spider-Man, is the main protagonist of the comic series Darkhold Spider-Man. After Chthon unleashes a multiversal virus through dark magic called the Unraveling with the use of the Darkhold, the Unraveling takes effect in multiple universes, causing multiple cities and people to crumble apart physically, including Earth 73640, where the Spider-Man of that universe drastically loses his sanity while being corrupted by the dark magic of the Darkhold, as he desperately tries to keep New York City and its people from falling apart due to the virus. In Earth 616, Chthon acquired the Darkhold and unleashes a form of dark magic called the Unraveling from the other realm, which is a multiversal virus that affects various alternate universes. Realizing this threat, Scarlet Witch assembled a task force of heroes to take down Chthon. Meanwhile, on Earth 73640, the Spider-Man of this universe is fighting crime as usual until the Unraveling takes effect, causing everyone in New York City to crumble apart drastically while maintaining their consciousness, including the city itself. Peter, who is already married to Gwen Stacy for a year, attempts to keep the people in the city together by webbing everyone in every corner of the city. And while this was temporarily effective, the web slowly dissolved over time. As time went on, the stress and deterioration of his sanity makes him vulnerable to the corruption of the Darkhold. Consulting Reed Richards and Mr. Fantastic about the issue, Reed recommended that Peter fuse his webbing with the Venom symbiote, as it is more durable than his webbing. Tracking down Venom to subdue them, he finds the beast in a weakened condition, the corpse of Eddie Brock serving as its core. Regardless, Peter manages to subdue the symbiote and merge it with his webbing in Reed's lab, using his webbing to once again instate control over the city. While the use of the symbiote empowered webs did allow for Peter and Reed to have time to discuss plans to stop the unraveling, Peter's sanity continued to deteriorate due to the effects of the virus, as well as his fear of failing to save everyone in New York. After some time, he decides to take a break and be with his wife, Gwen, to have a belated celebration of their anniversary. However, when Peter returns home, he discovers that Gwen had succumbed to the unraveling, having died waiting for them at the dinner table. Cake in hand, his mind shattered from grief and horror, completely loses his sanity to the will of the Darkhold, causing him to finally decide to take drastic action. Sometime later, Peter heads over to Reed's lab. Reed had overheard the news of Gwen's passing and apologizes to Peter before being injected with a syringe behind his back by Peter. Losing consciousness as a result, Peter would then fuse his webbing with Reed, as his elastic body is more durable than both his original and symbiote
Oh my
webbing.
god.
With his upgraded webbing, he would bind the entire city once again, sentencing his former friend to an endless state of pain and agony. Despite Reed's torture as a result of binding New York City and its inhabitants, the webbing proved to be effective, as everyone is able to live in a form of normalcy due to the strength and durability of the new webbing. Reed would often beg Peter to release him from his agony. However, to which a crazed Peter declared that Reed's new responsibility was to keep the city stable. Sometime after, Reed will also begin to dissolve, and since Peter is out of options, he reluctantly put Reed out of his misery. So yeah, that happened. So that was that
Pretty horrific.
yeah, that was a crazy one. That's it's funny because I feel like that was kind of up your alley with how crazy that one was. It was kind of like Elder Goddish a little bit.
Yeah.
Like unraveling, all that stuff. Earth X is one of the number of planets implanted with a gestating celestial egg. About 10 years after the end of the heroic age, Black Bolt releases the mutagenic terrigenic terrigen mist into Earth's atmosphere, seeking to transform humanity into inhumans so that his people would not suffer persecution. He blinded Uatu the Watcher to prevent him from witnessing his actions, and Black Bolt and the Inhumans leave Earth. Unable to operate his observation equipment, Uatu transports X-51 Machine Man, who has long since given up superheroics to imitate the life of his human creator, to the moon to act as Earth's new Watcher. X-51 gets increasingly annoyed at Uatu's assurance of the hero's defeat. After killing Red Skull, Captain America quits the Avengers, considering himself unfit for the team. Shortly afterward, Reed Richards constructs a worldwide network of vibranium power centers to solve the looming energy crisis, but the experiment fails when one of Reed's scientists falls into the reactor, causing a worldwide explosion chain reaction. The scientist that fell into the reactor became encased within vibranium and then discovered that she can manipulate the rare metal, becoming the Iron Maiden. The Terrigen mists begin mutating the Earth's human population, though much of the world blames Plague X on Richard's failed experiment. Benny Beckley, the young son of Comet Man, gains the ability to control the actions of others and becomes known as Skull. Nearly all of the world's telepaths are killed by the backlash caused by Beckley's power manifestation. Meanwhile, Doctor Doom and Namor fight the Fantastic Four. Doom is killed in an explosion along with Susan Richards. Namor kills Johnny Storm. Franklin Richards responds by cursing Namor, causing one side of his body to burst into flame upon contact with air and forcing Namor back into the ocean. A distraught Reed dons Doom's armor and exiles himself to Castle Doom in Latveria. So it's getting real crazy real quick. Soon after the Absorbing Man absorbs Ultron, the Vision defeats the Absorbing Man with a computer virus. Attempting to isolate the virus by turning to stone, the Absorbing Man is shattered by the Vision after murdering the Avengers. Absorbing Man's pieces are scattered amongst the world's leaders so that he can never be reassembled. Norman Osborn manipulates America into electing him president by using alien DNA to create the Hydra, a parasite collective that mind controls its host bodies. Osborn grants Tony Stark, one of his last unmutated humans, political asylum in exchange for constructing robotic replicas of the fallen Avengers to battle the Hydra menace. Loki tricked Odin into changing Thor into a female and discovers an elaborate celestial manipulation on a cosmic scale. That was random. Ancient humans were modified by the Celestials, given the ability to develop powers to act as a type of antibodies to stop radical elements such as deviants and alien species from harming the Earth and the celestial embryo growing within it. Along with the Earth, Celestials modified the native species of many planets harboring celestial embryos. Species affected by celestial modification gradually undergo an evolution process where they develop powers either through natural means such as mutants or unnatural means. As with metahumans like Spider-Man, species with celestial modifications in theory hold enough power to rival the Celestials. but are inhibited by a psychological safeguard put in place by the Celestials. The safeguard relates to the constructivist philosophy that essentially states that people are shaped by their environment. The deities and devils within the Marvel Universe are species that were modified by Celestials and unwittingly inhibit their own abilities due to the fact that they self-identify as a Marvel deity or devil. These evolved beings hold their sense of identity being reinforced by those that interact with them. Loki realizes that he was only the evil son of Odin and a Norse god because when he evolved beyond his mortal form, his psyche became a tabula rasa. The first, that's cool. The idea of individuals being born empty of any built in mental content so that all knowledge comes from later perceptions or sensory experiences. They say like a baby. The first interaction that he had with another in that form were Nordic humans who thought that he was an evil god and thus he became one. Captain America and his partner Redwing learn that the Skull is gathering a mind-controlled army. After Redwing is overcome by the Skull's powers, Captain America retreats and recruits allies to fight the Skull. The Inhuman royal family return from space and contact Reed, hoping to reunite with their people while trying to find the lost Inhuman nation when Cerebro Richards discovers Bolt's actions. The Skull's army reaches New York, overtaking it, and Captain America and his allies fall to the Skull's powers. While the Skull is distracted, Captain America kills the child dictator and liberates his followers. What? That's crazy. Before the heroes can celebrate, the Celestials arrive on Earth to germinate the embryo. As the Celestials prepare to attack New York, Loki arrives with a host of Asgardians found in the afterlife and announces he's not bad because he formed the Avengers. That's funny. Stark sacrifices himself while trying to hold off arriving Celestials. Black Bolt is killed after using his voice to travel across the universe and call for Galactus, who is revealed to be devouring worlds in order to destroy Celestials growing within them. Galactus kills several Celestials and forces the others to flee. Afterwards, Galactus consumes Earth's Celestial. Galactus prepares to leave, and Reed requests that he remove his helmet. Galactus reluctantly agrees, revealing that he is actually Franklin Richards. Franklin Richards previously convinced himself that he was Galactus, willingly sacrificing his own identity to turn into the destroyer of worlds after realizing that Galactus needed to exist in order to keep the celestial population in check. This needed to be done with the Fantastic Four, done after the Fantastic Four killed the original Galactus with the ultimate nullifier. Reed Richards also realizes this fact and makes the heartbreaking decision to not remind Franklin of who he originally was for the sake of the universe. Wow.
I like that.
That was pretty intense.
Yeah.
It started off like pretty like not that crazy, but it really ramped up. Yeah, that's a good one. Earth X.
Much better than DC's Earth X.
Much better than
Don't want to end up there.
You don't want to end up in this Earth X either, but you don't want to end up in that Earth X. I think
Yeah.
DC's Earth X is definitely